What's up? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So the entire world seems to be up in arms over the new Netflix special from Dave Chapelle called The Closer. It's a stand-up special, obviously, and I watched it last night after about a week of the mainstream media and most of social media telling me that it was full of transphobia, full of hateful comments toward trans people, and that as a trans person, I was going to be deeply upset about it. Activists are trying tooth and nail to cancel Dave to get the special taken down. There is an alleged walkout planned by the trans employees over at Netflix, all three of them. So yeah, even if you haven't watched the special, you've definitely heard that it's transphobic. I was impacted by this special in a way that I feel like you guys aren't really going to expect. I mean, just judging based on other reviews I've seen and how other people are talking about it after watching it, I don't really see my opinions or my takeaway on the special mirrored in anyone else's commentary. I was actually deeply moved by the special and I cried, not because I was offended by it or I was hurt or upset, but because, well, I was hurt. Not over the jokes though, over Dave's friend Daphne, the story rather of Dave's friend Daphne. Now you have to watch the special for all the details on their friendship, but basically Daphne was Dave Chappelle's trans friend and fellow comedian. He told a bunch of funny stories about how he let her open up for him at a nightclub and how she bombed, but it was very special for her still, and basically just went on to describe their unique but very special bond as friends. And if you remember a few years ago, Dave did a whole other special for Netflix in which he was also accused of being transphobic, and Daphne, as his trans friend, actually went on record to defend him, tweeting, "Punching down requires you to consider yourself superior to another group. Dave Chappelle doesn't consider himself superior to me in any way. He isn't punching up or down. He's punching lines. That's his job, and he's a master at his craft. Hashtag sticks and stones." Now, I vaguely remember this happening, but I know that Daphne was just absolutely dragged by the trans community, the LGBT community in general. Attacked, canceled, bullied online. There was a huge hate mob against her for having the audacity to stand up for her friend as she knew him. And if there's anyone who knows what it's like to receive hate from the trans community after you dare to step out of line from exactly what they want you to do and or think, it's me. So the part that brought me to tears is Dave said in the special that 6 days after this online hate mob went toward Daphne for defending him, she killed herself. She ended her life. And like I said, I had vaguely remembered this debacle happening. I remember a few headlines like Dave Chappelle's trans friend is defending him or whatever, but I did not know. And Dave goes on to say that while there's no way to specifically know that the online hate mob from the trans community against Daphne was the specific and exact reason why she chose to do that to herself, it didn't help, right? Like, I can only imagine, actually I can imagine very well, the feeling of having your community turn on you because you have a different opinion than them. This is something I've dealt with for years, and I'm a very strong person, but I can only imagine how someone who, I don't want to say she wasn't a strong person, but I can only imagine how someone who's not used to that, not expecting that, how it may affect them and what it may cause them to do, right? All for having the audacity to step out of ideological line with the trans community and for having the double audacity to not abandon her friend because the world is going against her friend. Now, I promise the whole video is not going to be me getting like super deep like this, but I just have to say, like, this just made me want to vomit for multiple reasons. The first reason being, like I said before, I can relate to that. This is something that I think we all can admit that does happen to me. You know, there's a very unique and specific intensity that the community goes after you. And then the second reason I wanted to vomit upon hearing this is that I wish I knew it was happening when it happened. Like, I wish I would have heard that Daphne was getting this amount of hate. I wish I would have been able to like slide into her DMs and say, "Hey girl, like I understand what you're going through, but it's going to pass. You're going to be okay. Like, and good for you for sticking to your guns. I can relate." Like, I don't know. I just feel as a public trans person, I could have, there's no point, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but like, I wish I would have been able to do something and say something to her when it was happening because I know she would have seen it and I know I don't know. That's messed up. And like I said, the message of Dave Chappelle's special that no one seems to be grasping is how the community, the LGBT community, goes after people so viciously for things and how it's so often not even deserved. And what better way of showing that than the fact that in the midst of fighting against transphobia, right, attacking Dave, They bullied, harassed, and attacked an actual trans person so badly that it possibly contributed to 6 days later, her ending her own life. To me, that is just such a sadly typical example of the community's inability to look inward and see that oftentimes we become what we claim to hate, and we behave in ways that are the same, if not even worse, than what we are fighting against. Because possibly bullying a trans woman into actually taking her life is 20 times worse than anything you could say that Dave Chapelle has done toward any trans people. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, even further making this point, there was a bit where Dave talked about how, the gay community has recently canceled DaBaby, a rapper, and how he shot and killed someone, like literally murdered someone, but what he's been canceled for is offending gay people. You tell me. Even people that I like and respect that are talking about this special and reviewing it and saying their thoughts, why is no one talking about Daphne? Maybe it's because I am who I am, that I was so deeply affected by it, how it stood out more to me. But it seemed as if the entire special was because of his trans friend Daphne who took her life, because of the fact that she was canceled by the mob. That was the whole point of it. I could understand why someone would be in a place where that amount of hate might put them in a place where they could do something like that. I mean, I have put up with it for years, and at this point, girl, it's nothing. I'm living my best life. I don't care. The hate really doesn't affect me anymore. But I remember the first couple times it happened, it definitely did. And I've seen other trans people who maybe were inspired by my content over the years and tried to make similar content have literal mental breakdowns over the amount of hate they get and then fall off the internet because they cannot handle it. That's something I've seen actually from 5 or 6 different people. If you think about it, there have been 4 or 5 that have tried to kind of join me and do the same content over the years, and most of them have completely fallen off the internet because they just can't handle it, because there is such a specific intensity the trans community goes after you when they are mad at you. And the fact that there is no justice for the fact that they potentially took Daphne's life is disgusting. Where's the justice in that? I wish y'all could be prosecuted. I mean, I don't know, dude. I also just want to say, on a more general note, I guess, the push to censor comedy is also very disgusting to me. And also how selective it is, because if you haven't watched the special, you probably haven't even heard about this, but Dave opened up the special with a joke about child by a priest. The fact that the outrage is about the trans stuff and not that is kind of again, it's I'm not outraged by either because it's comedy, but I put myself in the shoes of someone who would be outraged, and why they would choose a non-binary joke over a child molestation joke is kind of where are your priorities, sis? And furthermore, every group gets joked about, and why the trans community feels special and exempt from that, I don't quite know. It seems a bit narcissistic and self-involved to think that you are above that or you are uniquely exempt from it. Like I said, laughter is one of the few things that separates us from animals, if you think about it. It's one of the few things that, especially in this divisive time, can unite people across borders, across communities, across nationalities, genders, races, all that shit. If you're not going to laugh, you're going to cry, right? So try laughing. Stop crying. I want to leave you guys with a quote from Daphne that Dave relayed during the special. Dave talked about how at one point he told Daphne, I don't understand you being trans. I don't get it. And Daphne replied to that by saying, I don't need you to understand it. I only need you to believe me that I'm having a human experience. And that quote to me is so beautiful, and I've never put that into words before, but it very specifically describes the way in which I view myself being trans, actually. As a trans woman, I don't need anyone to believe I'm a woman. I'm a real woman. I don't care who views me as a man, who views me as a woman, who views me as both or nothing or anything else that you can think of. I don't care because I'm Blaire. I only care that you understand that I'm a human. And I'm going through it just like you're going through it. We may be very different people, but we live in such a crazy world with crazy things happening and crazy people in it. And how you get through it might not be how I get through it, but it's not for you to understand. It's not for me to understand how you're going through it. I don't feel validation when people tell me trans women are women. I don't feel pain when people say trans women are men, because None of that defines who I am anyways. And frankly, I don't understand a lot of types of people out there, or why a lot of people do a lot of things that they do. A lot of things that may seem sane to you that you're doing seem just as crazy to me as you think being trans is. You know what I mean? Your way of life isn't for me to understand. Your humanity is for me to respect. That's it. I'm going to end this by saying rest in peace to Daphne, who I feel like is being very unjustly left out of this conversation. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you liked this video. Sorry it got a little deeper than expected, but what are you gonna do? Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my second channel, Blaire Black, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.